it's hard to watch college games a lot because of the space.
Yeah.
The spacing, it feels like everyone. It feels like everyone is in the paint.
Yeah.
Everyone is in the paint, and some programs do a great job of now trying to open it up. And you know, I watched Florida. You know, this past year they kind of play a version of like the NBA style. You know, a couple years ago, the Connecticut team. You know, their version of passing and cutting and keeping the space and keeping everybody out of the paint. But ultimately, you can still just, if you want to, you can just stand in the paint defensively and not move. You know, so I think you bring certain guys into the league that maybe didn't thrive as much in college, but the space. Also, you know, one thing that it's funny that Ronnie told me, he was like, the best thing about the NBA compared to college is that I can literally just focus straight on basketball.
Yeah.
You know, like in college, I had to go to class, and you have to do work and stuff like that. You have to, go to all these things that's going on campus and meet with the academic advisors here, and then meet with these people here. It's like, as much as you think basketball is like the main thing in college, sometimes it's not. You know, he said once I got drafted and realized, listen.
Oh, that was a good shot.
I could just go to the gym early, get my work in, practice, go home, take a nap, and I could come back to the gym again, and then go home and go to sleep, play my game. Like, he was like, this is the best. So I think you're able to hone your skills and just play more basketball too, which helps a lot of guys too.
Yeah, we also had Luke on with us talking about how it's almost easier sometimes in the NBA because of the space, even though he also said the players are way better than maybe the EuroLeague or college. But the space does make the game, the pace makes the game, you get more opportunities.
Yeah.
The only problem is to be successful in the NBA, like, to be efficient as an NBA player, like you're talking about, there's not that many people on the planet that are really efficient NBA players. So, you got more space and time now, you got to make something happen with it, right? Like day after day after day.
You got to make the most of it.
And be consistent. You know, it's interesting, we talk about, the top pick, Cooper Flag, we talk about, some players going undrafted. It's an interesting time, too, with NIL. Because if you're not a guaranteed first-round pick and you're making really good money now to stay in college, like that's a big consideration. One, financially, and two, you can develop in a safe space. The NBA, it's a risk. You could come out, go in the second round, or not get drafted and not make the team.
Yeah.
Right. It's interesting. I think it's going somewhere positive. It's just a bit lawless.
Yeah, it's a little lawless right now. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's a little bit lawless right now. They got to figure it out. But I think, like you said, as far as you're not as stressed out about declaring for the draft and then having to stay in. If I hired an agent or whatever the case may be, and not get drafted. If you feel like you're not ready and you're developing, and the NIL is there. You're still able to make good money, stay on campus still, play great ball.
Facilities are unreal in college.
Facilities are great, or hit the transfer portal. Maybe.
Yo, why is this?
Maybe, you go somewhere else, and you're able to cash in on the NIL as well and continue to develop until you believe that you're ready, or now the scouts are even talking more, your names out there a little bit more, saying that you are ready. So it's definitely a thing. Like he says, NIL is a little lawless right now, but happy kids are making money, man.
Yes.
Shit.
Yeah, it's great, but it feels like, is there a plan? Is there a plan coming together? Like, this is organized? But the other thing about the draft that's interesting to me is like the way the game's becoming so positionless. I feel like there's a premium on that positionless player with potential, and it seems like it's evolving. I'd love to get your take on this, but like it started like 3-and-D guys because they could guard multiple positions, they could stretch the floor. You watch these two teams in the finals, they're asking their quote-unquote 3-and-D guys now to be able to play blender. So, like, it's not just stand in the corner, make a three, and guard. It's now you got to be able to guard different positions. You got to be able to make a perimeter shot. You also have to, when given a closeout, drive the ball, make the next play. Do you feel like that's where this game's evolved to?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, being able to put 5 guys on the floor that can do multiple things, and if not everything, not saying everything great. Right. You only need one guy, 2 guys that can do. You have your staple guys that can do everything great, like you said. Make the simple play, but being able to at least attract the eyes of another defender, so when if that defender helps, you can just get off of it. And now it starts the blender action, you know. And you know, these players are being sought after more and more and more as the years are going, and you're seeing. You know, you saw obviously what Boston been able to do with those guys. Those guys are all positionless. You know, being able to, you know, catch, shoot, drive, pass. That's it. You know, and then you have the great ones. Obviously, you have the Brown and the Tatum that they can do. They give it a little bit more freedom to do that. You know, and now you see Indiana, you see OKC. They put all guys on the floor that can make plays. You know, even Hartenstein. You know, they give him the ball, boom, pinch post. He uphill DHO. Okay, you jump out too fast. Okay, uphill keep DHO keep. You know, floater. Or okay, my guy just overplayed. I can make a backdoor cut after the split action. I can make those passes. You know, so you don't look at him as a guy that can, but he actually can. You know what I'm saying? Miles Turner the same way. We was talking about it like on the last show when Miles Turner as I'm a short roll. You're gonna think I'm rolling all the way, and then when my guy drives, you're gonna be in the paint. Now I'm gonna pop all the way back to the 3. And if you close out, I can put the ball on the floor and either get myself a shot or get it sprayed. You know, those are Obi Toppin saying those guys are just positionless players where, okay, if we switch, I can guard the 1, I can guard the 5, I can guard the 4. You know, those are players that's very key to teams being able to, like you said, be positionless in the league.
Yeah, it's always interesting this time of year to see in the draft how many guys in that kind of like 6'4" to 6'9" range get taken and where they're at in their development. How many teams are like, they know what this guy can do, or this is a project we got to develop, but he fits a profile that our team and our league needs. That's always fascinating.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Just like waiting for the perfect moment to take that game-winning shot, Prime Day has always been my favorite time to make the call on those big purchases. And this year, it's going to be even bigger. We're taking 4 full days of amazing deals on everything you've been wanting. This Prime Day will be the perfect moment to upgrade your home gym, transform your kitchen, or dive into a new hobby you've been thinking about. I've been on the hunt for a lumbar support that my buddy LeBron James told me to get an extra firm. And with all these deals coming up, there's never been a better time to make that happen. Whether you're gearing up for summer projects or wanting to treat yourself to something special, Prime Day is the time to do it. 4 days of incredible deals and endless possibilities. Shop Prime Day, July 8th through 11th. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Well, shifting gears, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of these rule changes or concepts that I've been hearing out there recently. Now, some of these are to make the game better, but some of them are to make the game better for the fans. And I think that's kind of the prism we got to look at these. So the one that's been talked about a lot with all the three-point shooting, you know, the evolution of the 3 is to eliminate the corner 3. You know, so to be clear, you know, the three-point line curves, and then it goes straight down to the corner. I believe the concept would be that curve just goes until it touches the sideline.
And then that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So anything in the corners is a 2, a long 2.
A long 2.
Where does that take our game? Like, I like our game. I like our game. But let's envision, you know, guys standing in the corner trying to space the floor, but he's not spacing for a 3.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an adjustment.
Right.
Yeah, I think, listen, one thing about us as NBA players, we
adapt.
And if we have to, no matter if we like it or not, we're able to adapt. I mean, I like our game where it is. I think the corner 3 is it's a great.
Shout out Ray Allen.
It's just the best shot. You know, besides a dunk or a layup or a free throw, but
Time to check in with Allie LaForce. Allie.
Thanks. I'm here with Coach Popovich. And Pop, I know you're not happy with the first half. They've taken the fight to you thus far. How do you take it back?
Yeah, they've been the aggressive team. I think we played really soft so far.
really pathetic defensive performance.
Coach, hopefully more toughness from your team in the second.
NBA guys don't want to just throw it
fuck,
onto
Pop?
us.
This is a big change.
Yeah, it's a huge change.
You can't just.
Yeah, you can't just throw it on us like that. Like, oh, well, here we go, guys.
Yeah.
You showed up to practice the first day of training camp, and there's no corner three. Like,
What the fuck?
Oh my
what
God.
are you doing? Like,
Yeah, that one seems like too big a leap for me.
yeah, I agree.
Too big a leap for me. Now I think our game would have to get, because like I said, I love our game. So what are we talking about? That's not one that I would tweak, you know.
I agree.
What about eliminating 3 seconds in the lane? That basically gets us to FIBA
Yeah, in college.
in college, right? We just talked about how college can get a little bogged down, no spacing. You know, we want to encourage speed of play, skill, athleticism, fast pace, right? So for the fans too, you know, it's a give and take, obviously. But I like the way our game's played, open and fast.
Yeah.
And it's getting to more of a, it's more jazz now, like read and react, play out of principles, seeing the players think and adapt on the fly. I think this is an incredible era for that. Here's one talking about defensive player of the year. Do we need a big and a small? Because
I like that,
traditionally
ain't gonna lie.
the bigs have dominated, right? You know, you got that rim protector back in my day. You got the odd guard, but usually it was like the bigs. It felt like. Do you feel like there should be a big, like a big and a perimeter?
I don't know if it should be a big and a perimeter, but I do think the landscape of how the voting and how we clarify the defensive player of the year is determined. You know, because right now, like if you can't guard on the perimeter, you know, you can't.
Yeah,
play, right? But if you're a big,
But when NBA YoungBoy comes in,
and
he's
you can
gonna guard. He's gonna
you can
guard his
bigs.
hometown. He's gonna guard
You can
fucking
actually
trade.
still play because
He's
there's not much. It's not the '90s anymore where guys are posting up a lot.
That's right.
You know, the game is more on the perimeter. So, you know, I think that just the clarity of what the defensive player award actually means.
So like some sort of criteria.
Some type of criteria. I did think about how like the NFL does offensive player of the year and MVP. I thought that could possibly be something in our league where you give a offensive player of the year, you know, and an MVP.
Right.
You know, not saying we should do it, but it was something that was like pretty cool, like in the NFL, how they do that. They do the offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year,
That's a great point.
MVP.
We have defense.
Yeah.
We don't have offense. We have
Right.
defense and MVP.
Right. We have, so maybe something.
Because there's no real criteria about MVP. It's a statement, most valuable player.
Yeah.
But what is the criteria? Because, you know, I think we usually associate it in some capacity with team success, which is a good thing. But is it said it's like, you know, and is it good that it's sort of this nebulous kind of
I ain't gonna lie.
exactly
Who
know,
win?
but
Who
there's
will
a
win
narrative
Offensive Player of the
to
Year
it,
this year? I
there's
think it'd be
a
Nikola Jokic.
Popular opinion, a populace that develops, and maybe that's just the way it should be.
Motherfucker averaged 29 and like
It's
11.
It's like, okay, so is it the best player? You know, is it the player that had the best season with his team? You know, maybe that's offensive player of the year. You know, or is it just simply the best player in the league? Like statistically, was the best player of the league. You know, no matter, you know, obviously you're not gonna have a guy in there that's like the team didn't come close to making the playoffs.
Right.
Well, obviously because if that's the case, then he's not the best player. You know, but it's not the most valuable game. But if it's, I don't know. It just changes. It changes too much.
Your offensive player of the year is interesting. I think that one's interesting. I haven't really thought about it a lot, but that is interesting because maybe that helps direct this thing. Because you could be on a poor team and have an unbelievable offensive year, you can still.
Bitch, I said screams like Jareem
Vice versa,
Abdul-Jabbar,
you could
bitch.
maybe not have the best year in the league, but you were the most valuable in taking your team to a new height. So there's all sorts of like a prism here to kind of decide. So that would maybe take some of that down with an offensive player. All right, what about the 4-point shot? I'm talking about taking away the corner, but what about just adding? How would that work? Would that go to the sideline from above the three? I'm sure you sit at home thinking about this all the time. Right?
No, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. I mean, we can and we can do anything we want, but I don't like when you start talking about the 4-point shot. Yes, you have guys that shoot from the logo in our league and shoot from way behind the 3-point line, but
Just let it be that type shit.
we also got to think about like the younger generation that's looking up to us as the pros. And they watch everything that we do, everything. And what I wouldn't want to happen is kids developing, trying to shoot a 4-point shot at 8.
I mean, the game is due for another evolution, man. It's due. It's fucking due.
I don't even. My best friend.
What's this been like 20 some years since the 3-point line? Not 20, fucking like 40.
I believe he was like in the 7th grade.
Someone in the league was just saying that the other day.
It's due for another evolution.
It might have been Book.
Yeah,
he was talking about his form.
Yeah, talking about his form. You're not allowed to shoot threes yet.
And I want to get this correct. I can ask my best friend after, but I know for sure, like when we play Little League, for his dad would not let him shoot. He's like, you're not strong enough, and you're not about to mess up your shot because you're literally just pushing it up there, like chugging it like a full court shot. So he didn't let him shoot threes till he was like in the 7th, 8th grade. So we add a 4-point shot to our league. What it's going to do to our kids and our younger generation is going to, I don't like it. I wouldn't like it.
You got kids prioritizing things that don't really matter yet.
Remind me like MTV Rockin' Jock. Like a 30-point shot, guy shoot all the way up in there.
Is there a trampoline? No, there wasn't a trampoline. That was, what was the one with the trampolines?
Oh, my goodness.
Slam ball.
Yeah,
Slam ball.
Yeah, slam ball. Yeah.
I had a college teammate that played slam ball.
That's funny.
Made it to the league. What do we got here? What about eliminating the charge? So I also wonder about this one. Like, what if you could still stand in and take a charge? There's no call. But it's not. If you were set, it's not a foul.
It's not a foul at all. You just take.
Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here?
Hell
You
no.
can't do it
Come
all,
on.
Or can you go in and if it's a charge, it's just no call. You just keep playing. Like if your feet aren't set, it's a foul.
Oh, and if you're not set, it's a foul.
It's a foul. That's what I guess they're saying. There's no charge. So, but if you're still set, you could step in. Like if you're coming
Man,
down the
hell
lane,
no, bro. It got to be an equal opposite.
Maybe I can
Like,
slide in and take a charge. I don't get a charge.
it's got to be
And the
equal
ref is like,
cause and effect, bro.
No, there's already too much conflict between players and referees already. Could you imagine you take a charge like Giannis
And you get nothing?
or like Embiid, and you're there.
But I'm trying to think about what does this mean, like, because if you take away the charge, a guy barrels down the lane. Your only option is try to meet it
It's
with
the
the
verticality. That's it. That's the only thing you can do then, or foul.
Oh, shit, I'm tripping.
But even verticality sometimes can be a charge,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a gray area, yeah, right? Like
The guy with his elbow over his leg.
yeah. Anyways,
No, charge stay.
charge gotta stay, right? Gotta stay. I think that
Gotta stay.
that'll make the game too
Yeah, gotta
What?
stay.
too wild,
Like Arch Riders, man.
right?
You remember that game on Nintendo? Arch Riders was go crazy, fucking people up.
Catch a cross,
Yeah, crazy.
transition.
Yeah.
What about just cleaning up some of our rules? Where are you at with like illegal screens? I feel like there's it's creeping. It's creeping.
I think we gotta get it back in order.
A little bit?
A little bit.
It's not like I don't mind the odd one. It feels like so many screens now, like a hip.
Yeah, the hip or the leg is a little bit too far out, or the, it's the difference between the touch and go and the actual shove and go.
Yeah.
There's
right.
If I'm on the ball, you're displacing. I'm on the ball, and I just come up and shove you underneath your hip, and I roll out. Because we know it's a switching league, so you're not if you're not going to enforce it, I'm gonna push you up a little bit, and you're never going to get behind. You're never going to get behind to get the switch. So I think we gotta look at that a little bit more. I think the committee, the referee committee, and the players, we just look at it a little bit more. Just get a little bit more fundamental with it.
We've talked about before how you got to give a guy space when you set it. Sometimes,
we hear it, but they tell, first 2-3 weeks, we got to do, and then they
I am so tired.
What it was, so.
Same with the travel.
But
you
what
know,
the
we've
fuck
had
do I
different
look like
times. I think
stopping, bro?
For sure, during your career, definitely during mine, multiple times. We're trying to clean it up. So
Like, what do I get out of
I'm
quitting
not like a
in the middle of the,
crazy
you know what I'm
person
saying?
with
Like,
travel. Like, I like it to be a lot of freedom of movement. I don't want people just being crazy with it. But like, the way, you know, we have the gather now. You know, guys obviously put their hand under the ball a little bit. It's the catch and go. There's times, you know what it's like in international.
doesn't make sense.
International is different too. Some refs are like,
we practice it. Like, you know, when we're gearing up for the Olympics, like, the first thing we do when we say everybody on the baseline, they throw us the ball and you put the ball down right away.
Bob Cousy.
Yep. Soon as you catching the transition, put it down. You can't. If you do this, travel. International travel every single time. No jab and go. No.
Right.
Everything is put it down first.
See, I'm glad we're not like that no more.
Right.
That's the language. That's how we all grew up, like, you know, playing in the playground or the open gym, whatever.
Yeah, just looking at, I guess, just because I sometimes since I am here, I get away with traveling sometimes too. I can't sit here and say I don't, because, but I think you just I don't want to be like nitpicky about our players. I don't want to stop us from being creative or whatever the case may be, but just, we can probably, that's one of the things, like we saying with the offensive fouls, just we can clean it up a little bit.
Yeah. What's the most egregious travel you ever got away with?
Me?
Yeah.
The most egregious travel I ever got away with, and you know what? The basketball guys are not on my side. The one that comes to my mind right now, I was my second stint with Cleveland playing in Washington, and we were down 1. I got the ball in transition about half court, and I was driving the lane. It's late in the game. I was driving the lane, and I got into the lane, and I traveled like a mother. And I got all the way to the lane and missed the layup.
This is the layup. They didn't call the travel.
They did not call the travel. I blew the layup.
It's because you felt guilty.
I don't know if I felt guilty. It felt weird.
You're just
I was
thinking,
like, what
they're gonna call this?
Like, I had a wide open layup and missed it. It's the same game when I end up tying it, hitting the 3-pointer off the glass.
So they made a bucket.
They made two free throws. And then I hit the.
So what do you mean the basketball gods weren't on your side?
Well, I mean,
they came back around.
It came back around because I'm true to the game. I missed it. If I would have made it.
They didn't call the travel.
They did not call the travel. I blew the layup.
It's because you.
I traveled like a mother.
Oh my God.
And I got all the way to the lane and missed the layup.
This is the layup. They didn't call the travel.
They did not call the travel. I blew the layup.
He just traveled. Oh my goodness.
Like a mother. And I got all the way to the lane.
He took 4 steps.
Missed the layup.
This is the layup. They didn't call the travel.
They did not call the travel.
4. Holy shit.
I blew the layup.
It's because you felt guilty.
I don't know if I felt guilty. It felt weird.
You're just
I was
thinking,
like,
they're going to call
this? Like, I had a wide open layup and missed it. It's the same game when I end up tying it, hitting the 3-pointer off the glass.
So they made a bucket.
They made two free throws. And then I hit the.
So what do you
I
mean
remember that. It was a fadeaway.
Right?
They came back around.
It came back around because I'm true to the game. I missed it. If I would have made it, then, we probably lost the game.
Found a way.
Yeah, found a way. Right. Basketball guy stayed with me a little bit.
I love that.
We're going to pull that clip. So you know how people be like, LeBron's lying. He doesn't remember that. What is he talking about? Exactly that. That was terrible. I had one this past season, too, in Orlando. It was so bad. Switched my pivot feet. Missed the shot, too.
No call?
No call.
Just straight up pivoting on one, change to the other?
Changed it at the elbow. Yeah. Terrible. Drove down the lane.
So that's how you feel?
Yeah. I was at the elbow. Missed the shot, too.
No call?
No call.
Just straight up pivoting on one, change to the other?
Changed it at the elbow. Yeah. Terrible. Drove down the lane. I was at the elbow. Pivot foot. Oh, I didn't like that one. Switched it. Drove. Shot him a floater. Hit inside the backboard. I said, yep, that's one now. That's what's got him.
Can't stand you, motherfucking bitch. They really fucking snitches. That fucking fuck. Man, shut the fuck up, boy. I went to game 7, but game 7 didn't come to me. I went to game 7, but game 7 didn't come to me. Bro, what the fuck? Fuck. Okay. Why did I just do that though? Like I'm so.
Everybody, and welcome to the All NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I am Will Gottlieb of CHGO Sports here, filling in for Adam Mares, who's taking the day off. Joined as always here by Tim Legler and producer James. Tim, it's been a long season, the off season. Maybe one day off, maybe not. But how are you feeling? And are you ready to talk some off season?
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just sitting here thinking, like, what they've done to the season is incredible. Like, so they basically they wanted to spread it out more, so that you didn't have as many back-to-backs. Like, that was the whole thinking. Because we used to start the season like, right around October 15th-ish, or early October, and now it's like, it's closer to Halloween by the time teams start. I'm sorry, it used to be Halloween. Now they've
Don't
backed
go
all the
back
way
up, bro. It's Rudy
to give you
Gobert.
more time, spread it out.
You got
the season
Victor
goes so
Wembanyama
deep,
and
Will.
Rudy
Think about
Gobert
this.
down there.
I mean, the finals end
and you're
Sunday
going back
night,
up, like.
and now we're already like we're the day before the NBA draft.
I understand you're
I
careening the
think
dream,
the
but come on,
league
bro.
might need to take a look at this for everybody that goes into do playoff
Oh my
runs.
God, bro.
To think about having to get ready for the draft and free agency when really your only focus should be on winning a championship. The way that they've now made the schedule for the league to spread these games out, this is what you get. Usually the game would end the series. You go, okay, man, take a breath, relax, enjoy that. Go take some time, spend a couple weeks, get ready for the draft. Now it's 48 hours later, man. You're here, and not to mention the fact there were some big trades that took place during the NBA Finals, which is very unusual for that to happen, particularly significant trades, and we've had a few of them. So, yeah, man, there's no pause. You're immediately getting into the offseason, which is what we're going to focus on today.
Yeah, so we obviously came together here today to talk about Javon Carter picking up his $6.8 million player option. I'm just kidding. The people want to know about Kevin Durant. Obviously, the big trade that couldn't even wait until the end of the finals on the same day of Game 7. And one of the great players in NBA history gets traded from Phoenix to Houston. The deal is Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th overall pick in the 2025 draft, and 5 future second-round picks for Kevin Durant. Legal if it is completed after the new league year when they can make the matching salaries work. There's some incentives and bonuses and things like that make it workable for the Suns, who are severely impacted in their cap. But let's talk about the basketball fit and just what you make of this trade for both teams, big picture.
Yeah, look, I think it was worth the risk on the part of the Rockets. You're basically giving yourself a 2 to 3 year window here. The most important thing is that you still have the player in your organization, not named Kevin Durant, that really is the guy that you're going to build around going forward, which is Amen Thompson. Because I think Amen Thompson showed you the second half of last season, like, what this guy's potential upside could be. I mean, he's a franchise player. If he adds any sort of perimeter shooting to his game to go with everything else that he does on the floor, you've got an all-league caliber type guy. It remains to be seen if he'll add that kind of scoring punch, but he's so young, there's no reason to think he can't. He's a gym rat. So for me, that's what's key here, because you did give up, picks, 10th pick this year. You gave up, Jalen Green, who's a very talented, young, explosive scoring guard. Dylan Brooks factor, yeah, he brings an element of toughness and defense to your team, but I do think that's replaceable, what he does. Second-round picks, everybody knows I don't put a lot of credence into second-round picks. So this was about Jalen Green, the first-round pick. And then most importantly, do you still have guys there that are young, that you love, that you're trying to develop? And with Şengün and Amen Thompson, you have those guys. So now you bring in Kevin Durant. He checks the box of the one thing you didn't have, which was a guy that can just go get a bucket on anybody in the league. And also, by the way, I think specifically looking at OKC, which is the barometer for everybody in the West, Kevin Durant is a guy that offensively, he can beat what they throw at him. Those guys, you got 4 or 5 guys that guard perimeter guards like that. Like, all of those guys could be a nightmare for a guy like Jalen Green. Kevin Durant has an answer for that stuff. So I think even in terms of looking at who you're comparing yourself to, I think Kevin Durant gives you a better chance to operate offensively against OKC. You still keep young, talented players, rising stars in your organization. Other key role players like Jabari Smith and Tari Eason, that you keep those guys. So you've got a lot of great pieces there. And now you have the one thing you didn't have, an alpha, top of the food chain, lethal scoring machine. to run your offense built around this great infrastructure defensively and a very well-coached team. So I love it for Houston. I just think it was worth the risk, looking at their roster and what they were able to retain.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel like the cost was driven down to a point where they just really couldn't say no. We saw what their weaknesses were in the playoffs, the struggles that they had. Obviously, an incredible defensive team. You mentioned some of the young players that they were able to keep. I mean, Hari Eason, just off the bench, Amen Thompson. Like, these guys are going to help, I think, set a floor where Kevin Durant can not, like, take it easy, but the pressure isn't going to be on him for 82 games of the regular season where he needs to be the guy driving everything. He can fit into the system, he can contribute, he can be the primary scorer, but not have to overextend himself to where he's burnt out at the start of the playoffs. And so I think that's a really good fit for him. I think most importantly, it keeps the powder dry for the Rockets to be able to go out and make the next move if they want. They still have Reed Shepard, they still have Cam Whitmore, they still have all their first-round picks in the future, plus a bunch more. So they can continue to add to this group and see what else they need. They don't have to make quick decisions now. They can kind of see what it looks like with Durant. But I'm curious, Tim, from your perspective, if you're Ime Udoka, how do you use Durant in the offense? Like, what kind of sets are you looking to incorporate to bring the most out of him and take the pressure off of some of the younger guys?
One thing about Durant, he's a little bit different than some of the other elite scorers. Because I don't think Kevin Durant necessarily needs you to come down and change everything you do for him. He's one of those guys that he even doesn't mind other guys taking shots early in the game. He just kind of chills and like, you know what, I know I'm going to get to my 30 one way or another and do it efficiently. So, look, I think their defense is key here. Like, their defense can be elite. It can be a top 5 defense in the league. That's going to trigger a lot of what they want to do, getting up the floor earlier. I think Kevin Durant at this stage of his career is better when you could attack in the first 10 seconds of the clock, and he can catch it in cross matches and just get to that mid-range pull-up shot that he loves so much. In the half court, I think incorporating, being able to incorporate Şengün and running your offense through low post.
Oh my God, we have really good screeners too, bro.
In addition to now having an isolation player or a guy like Durant who you can run pin downs for. Like running a two-man game, but in a pin-down version with Şengün and Durant, coming off for elbow jumpers, wing jumpers, and playing out of that into an ISO. That's what Kevin Durant loves to do. I wouldn't change anything and ask Kevin Durant to be anything other than he is. You don't acquire a guy like Kevin Durant and then ask him to be different. You go get him because you want him to be exactly what he's been, knowing that your team needs it. One thing about him I love, his level of efficiency is really incredible when you look at some of the great jump shooters in this league, contested jump shooters, historically. Guys like we think of as efficient. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kawhi Leonard, those 3 guys come to mind. You look at a guy like Michael Jordan, I think he shot over 50% from the field like 6 times in his career. Kawhi's done it like 5 times, 6 times, something like that. Durant's just finished his 13th straight year, dude. 13 straight. Over 50% from the field.
With the shots he takes, bro, that is
It is incredible. I mean, you think that he would have 1 year there where he shot 48%, which would still be a great year for a perimeter jump shooter, primarily. But 13 years in a row, and he's always, in that 40 range, 3-point range. He's
even at
close
7
to 90 from the
feet,
line.
bro, you gotta make them motherfuckers.
So he's just a machine,
bro.
and he does it without requiring a ton of shots. So to me, he's easy to blend in with whatever you want to do. But now you've got post play, you've got the slashing wing in Thompson, and now you've got an isolation player. And at the point guard, I think they're solid. Van Vliet and Reed Shepard is a guy I really, really liked coming out. He didn't get much of an opportunity this year. He now slides in probably to the back.
Go get Drew Holiday now. Right fucking now. If we trade for Drew Holiday, bro, oh my God. If we trade for Drew Holiday, I might cry.
They're going to give him every chance. And I think this is a year now.
I literally might cry.
You see Reed Shepard emerge and getting more consistent backup minutes, too. So I think there's an opportunity there for him.
Yeah, I think the efficiency part is key. I mean, Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks both 42% from the field. KD, as you mentioned, over 50. But I do want to transition into the Suns and their perspective on this. But before we do that, some breaking news from Shams Charania, as we're seeing in the comments here. CJ McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, future second-round pick to the Washington Wizards for Jordan Poole, Saddiq Bey, and the 40th overall pick. What do you make of this just off the cuff here? I know, obviously, haven't had any time to think about it, but CJ McCollum moving to the Washington Wizards for Jordan Poole heading back to New Orleans.
I got to be honest with you, Will. I don't know that there's anything that we've flashed up there with breaking news in the 2 years we've done this show that moves me less than what we just put on the screen. I don't know. What I like, these are all players. Like, well, C.J. McCollum I've always liked, but C.J. McCollum clearly.
I mean, it's the teams they're going to.
He's just not the player that he was, and he's had a very difficult time staying healthy. I don't think Jordan Poole necessarily is a winning player. I like Kelly Olynyk a lot, but he's a role player.
Hold on now.
Saddiq Bey, I mean, yeah, that one didn't do a lot for me. It's two organizations that had really rough years.
He was an important player to
and they just moved some pieces around. So I don't know that either one of them got significantly better.
You heard it here first. These are all players. Quote from
He is
Tim
a champion.
Yeah, I think it's probably salary motivated. Like, I don't know off the top of my head what these guys are making, but it seems like obviously
Yeah,
the Pelicans, for how bad they have been, are always very impacted in terms of their salary cap. And the Wizards continue to be motivated to take on bad contracts for draft compensation. So maybe that's all this is.
One thing I do want to say, I will say, like, I'm looking at the Pelicans, okay, so this year they were 21-61. Right, and they started out the year. You got Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and C.J. McCollum on the team, and so obviously that has just not come together, mainly because of injuries since they've been there. But I'm looking at Zion Williamson, who's got all kinds of stuff going on off the court. He's had problems staying on the court. You got all of this, and then you go out and make a trade for a guy like Jordan Poole, and like some of the baggage that he carries with him, and you just wonder like what because they've said, the organization has said they're building around Zion Williamson. Like there's nothing that they've seen or nothing they're worried about. Like he is the guy that's going to
baggage though?
And the main reason is the guy's box office. People still want to watch him play. He has yet to really put anything together for an entire season, and that's really led to winning necessarily. So, and now you have a veteran guy like C.J. McCollum, who's the ultimate professional and a guy with a great reputation and everything else, more of a leader. And then you go and you get Jordan Poole to come in there next to Zion. I think that's just a little bit of a head scratcher. But to your point, it has to be something strictly salary related. Has very little to do with the actual product on the floor because there's no way you could explain that to me in any other way. It doesn't really impact either organization dramatically in terms of winning games next year. Washington won 18 games. New Orleans won 21. I mean, you're talking about two of the bottom feeders of the league, and I don't think either one of these puts them in a position really to win more games. So there's other stuff associated with it. But just from a locker room standpoint, it's an interesting move for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I think, it seems like maybe adding some adults to the room for Washington. Obviously, they brought in Marcus Smart and Chris Middleton last year. I feel like maybe that's good enough, but here they are taking a swing on McCollum. Let's transition back into the Suns side of this after the KD trade. A lot of people were up in arms about the return. Obviously, Jalen Green is a very talented player, somebody who was drafted very highly in this league, but certainly struggled in the first round of the playoffs, his first playoff experience. The 10th overall pick is a pretty good asset, but as we'll talk about in the second part of the show today, like, to me, there's no real stars that can be had at that point in the draft. So obviously Dillon Brooks is a good role player. To me, Tim, this just felt like Durant kind of angled himself where he wanted to go, drove down the value to a place where he wanted to go,
Big
and
shot
then
bomb.
have enough pieces remaining to really be competitive. And the Suns are just kind of holding the bag because Durant was up for an extension and they couldn't afford to give it to him. But from your perspective, Suns, like, where do they go from here? I mean, what do they make of this roster now? It's just like a bunch of shooting guards, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I think one thing Suns
bro.
fans need to realize, if you get upset about the return, you thought he should get more. You got to understand something. One, he had all the leverage in dictating where he wanted to go. Because your teams need to know that you're going to give up assets, particularly young assets, which is what Phoenix wanted back. Teams aren't going to do that unless they think they've got you beyond a year, that you're going to be there for a few years and give you a legitimate chance to win. So that narrowed the field. He said the teams that he'd be interested in staying with. So now you've really narrowed it down to a few teams, and of those teams, they got the best return they could. And some of it is, Kevin Durant's a great player. Kevin Durant is an MVP. Kevin Durant's a two-time champion, two-time Finals MVP. Kevin Durant has bounced around a lot here, kind of hunting for happiness. And I think that starts to affect what kind of return you can get. And so I know Suns fans probably always want more because you see the name Kevin Durant, what he's done in his career. He's at the end of his career. I mean, he's had injuries himself that he's dealt with. This was the best return they could get. And you get back a guy in Jalen Green. Look, he and Booker playing together is going to be interesting to watch. He's going to frustrate Suns fans some nights, and his shot selection sometimes and turnovers can frustrate you. But then there's other nights and stretches, actually. You'll go on a 10-game stretch where he'll average 30 and do it efficiently and make threes and everything else. And he's one of the more explosive young guards in the league, and you're going to love him then. So they got back what they could. They're in a tough spot. What they put together did not work out at all. And so they knew they had to go in a different direction. The 10th pick could be a nice player. I haven't dived into the draft to the extent I'd like to because I just finished the NBA Finals. But, there's a lot of guys that get picked in that, 8 to 14 range that have been really good players, all-star players. Better than that, even all league players have come from that group. I don't know if there's one there this year or not, but you can get a really nice player there. And then Dillon Brooks, I think, can help with just the overall mentality of your locker room and how you go about your business. That was one of the softest teams in the league defensively all year that I watched. I mean, some nights it was like embarrassingly soft. Very little resistance, very little want to. Dillon Brooks is going to change a lot of that instantly. And he's going to expect guys to join along, and he doesn't have a problem being vocal. So that could be a benefit of it as well. And Jalen Green is a very young player with a lot of upside, and let's see if it works with he and Booker. Two high-scoring, high-volume guards. It'll be an interesting pairing for sure.
I think the way that they put that team together, there was no single move that was going to set them up, whether they're trying to compete and contend or strip it all down to the studs and start over. And so I think this is kind of a painting that is not yet complete. And the Phoenix front office and ownership group is going to have a lot of work to do to get them back on track, and it might not happen right away. And I think based on this return, it seems like that's something that they're kind of understanding is going to have to be the case. But another trade happened late last night involving the Portland Trail Blazers and the Boston Celtics. We have Drew Holiday going back to the Blazers. He never played there, but was traded there last summer, 2 summers ago.
Drew Holiday, you don't know it now,
Boston,
but you're a Houston Rocket.
Simons, 2 second-round picks, and
Drew Holiday, you don't know it now, but you're a Houston Rocket.
In the second apron that
Word of
is in need of cutting some salary, and so it seems like they could be in for some more moves. But reaction to this trade, Tim, pretty surprising to me.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming at all. I mean, I heard no rumors about this. I didn't know that Boston was looking at moving Drew Holiday. I like Anthony Simons a lot. People haven't been watching a lot of Anthony Simons because he plays in Portland. It hasn't been a team that's drawn a lot of attention nationally the last couple of years. They're on late. You know, if you're an East Coast person, you got to that Blazers Jazz game at 10:30. You know, on a Wednesday night, you're probably not staying up for. So he hasn't been a guy that's caught national attention, but he is very, very talented. He's a completely different level offensive player from Drew Holiday. So it gives the Celtics a lot more punch. And you're talking about having to go a year in which you're losing maybe the whole season. You know, we'll just see how it plays out with Tatum. There's a good chance it's the whole year of a guy that gives you 25 plus every night. That is the main driving force of your offense. So to think they could just go stand pat running around Jaylen Brown and be out there with, you know, this really good defensive team, I don't think so, man. The Eastern Conference has got some openings in it now with all these injuries that have taken place. Some other teams that have gotten a lot better. Detroit is going to be significantly improved. Orlando gets Desmond Bane. You know, the Knicks are sitting there. They don't have a coach yet, but at least they're healthy. So the East is kind of an interesting question now. You couldn't go into the season, I don't think, with the same offensive talent that you had and think that you were going to win the Eastern Conference, waiting on Tatum maybe to come back at the end of the year. So Anthony Simons gives you a lot more offense. He can play both. He can be a facilitator. He can be an explosive scorer. He's not the defender Drew Holiday is, but very few people in this league are. But Drew Holiday's offensive impact had diminished more and more and more. So that the only things we were talking about with Drew Holiday was toughness and on-ball defense and all of that. And don't get me wrong, the guy's a winner, and I'm a big Drew Holiday fan, but his offensive production had basically dropped off completely because they didn't need him to do that because they had other guys there to score the ball. Boston's in a little bit of a pickle now without Tatum, and I think that kind of had something to do with this. That's where can we upgrade? And they looked at an opportunity to upgrade at one of those guard spots.
Yeah, upgrade in terms of offense, start to reorient a little bit more towards the 26-27 season when Tatum will be back and hopefully looking like himself again, and just thinking a little bit more future-oriented, while also I think obviously getting out of the second apron is critical, but I think they're going to try to get out of the luxury tax altogether if they can, and so that may require further moves, whether it's Porzingis, whether it's Jaylen Brown, or maybe it's a salary dump of Sam Hauser. I do think that they're going to have some more action here before the offseason is up. And then for the Blazers, I mean, bringing in Drew Holiday, this was a really just solid and strong defensive unit last year, especially in the second half when they started to pick things up. They bring in, obviously, veteran leadership, proven champion on multiple occasions, and get off of a guy who, as you mentioned, obviously a very talented offensive player, but very sort of porous on the defensive end. So what do you make of this Portland team, and just what does this move say about the way that they maybe see themselves in the greater Western Conference landscape?
Well, I think some of the things, you know, they learned about themselves over the last year or so. The guy that I think they're going to build around now, Shaedon Sharpe, right now, you know, he's got just unlimited athletic potential. And now he's starting to polish his game a little bit more. You saw him start to extend his shooting range. You know, he was always good for one of the two of those eye-popping highlight plays, but now he's adding more to his game. He's still such a young player. So I think they believe there's still, you know, multiple levels still to come for Shaedon Sharpe. Denny Avdia was a guy that came in there and played really well for them. I think they were actually surprised overall at how good a player he is. I mean, he comes in there, plays 72 games for them, and gives you 17, 7 boards, 4 assists a night. It was really,
I don't know why he wasn't starting
player. And I think
throughout the whole season,
getting more of an opportunity to be featured in Portland
they
than
still
he
got
did in
Tamani
Washington.
Kamara,
And they didn't really give him a lot of time in Washington to really develop. He really came into his own this year. So he's another player that I think surprised them. So you look at their team now, and I think they think that we've got some pieces now that we want to build around offensively. We need to change our defensive approach and a little bit of our toughness on that end of the court. Drew Holiday.
Damn, Drew Holiday gonna come off the bench?
I think Chauncey Billups is a guy that could clearly identify with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tamani Kamara, incredible defensive player. Donovan Clingan-Shep flashes a really rim protector. And it's just hard to survive when you have smaller guards in the backcourt. So Simons, Sharpe, and Scoot Henderson is a trio that I think is just going to give them problems if they're taking themselves seriously as a playoff team. And so I don't know if they'll take that next step and get there. But certainly the way that Abdia evolved, if Scoot can take a step forward next year, you've still got some veteran pieces in Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton. We'll see how they kind of put the rest of their roster together. But do you feel like this is a team that could potentially make a playoff run next year?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many questions in the West, and the top's still loaded, but they all have questions except Oklahoma City. There's one team that we kind of know who they are, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's not going to change from this year to next. All these other teams, Houston goes out, adds Kevin Durant. So now we got to see. It sounds great. You and I both like
Big
it.
feet,
You
bitch.
still have to, at the end of the day, go out there, make it work. It's going to take time. The 3 seed with the Lakers, incredibly disappointing into the year. So now, and you got the videos, the off-season videos, my favorite. You got Luka showing off the guns in the gym, like it looked like he's getting leaner. All that conversation about his weight and conditioning and all that. So, hey man, if he did take it to heart, it's a good thing. If LeBron's pushing him a little bit in the offseason, but questions.
Not my favorite player for no reason.
Flamed out at the end, so who knows? Like you're not going to give him automatically benefit of the doubt. Denver's clearly on the decline.
Can't be my favorite player if you.
So what do they do?
So.
And now they've got it. They gave Adam a full-time job. It's his first full-time season with those guys, so that's an adjustment for them. Minnesota. Another team that, like, the way that their season ended was very, very disappointing. And I thought Oklahoma City completely took their heart. So they've got to look in the mirror, figure out who they are. The Warriors, older, who knows? Memphis with a brand new coach. So, like, there's so many questions with all these teams. You got to see them. Look at that next group of teams. I mean, Portland made a run there at the end. It started to get interesting. Them, Phoenix now with a big trade and a new coach. Dallas Mavericks sitting down there with Anthony Davis and then drafting Cooper Flagg. Who knows when you get Kyrie back? These are the next teams. San Antonio, let's see what happens with Wemby. And that team coming back now with another high pick. So that group of teams from like 8 to 12, super interesting, and Portland is in that mix. So I think Portland, I think Drew Holiday factor and how much he impacts them, that remains to be seen. You got to see. Scoot Henderson's a big one for me. It's a 3rd pick in the draft, and he's still a 35% shooter from the field. Like that has to dramatically change. He's got to at least get up there into the 42, 43% before he's a valuable offensive player for you. So that's a 3rd pick. You want that to work. Let's see if this is the year that he takes a bump. But they'll be right there in that mix of teams, man, 8 through 12. Playing type team, battling it out, but I think there's just there's too much uncertainty in the Western Conference to really be able to predict much outside of Oklahoma City.
I think it's a bet on their future and on their young core. You mentioned Cooper Flagg. You mentioned some of these other young teams who have draft picks coming up in tomorrow's draft. We are going to take a quick break here, run some ads, and then we're going to get into the All-City NBA Draft Guide and some of our
parlay around. It's really nice that has already helped on iOS or Android, or visit it's not
Cooper Flagg, obviously going to be the #1 pick, an incredible defensive player, incredible defensive prospect, and really one of the best prospects that we've seen since Anthony Davis or Zion Williamson or LeBron James. He's certainly in that category. But just knowing, he is a player who's not like a dynamic 30-point a night guy, but somebody who's going to keep it 20, defend at a really high level. How do you think he fits into this Dallas Mavericks group?
Wet bonanza.
I think he's going to fit anywhere he goes, no matter who had that top pick, because I'm not high on Cooper Flagg. I don't think there's any way this guy's going to miss. He stays healthy because the #1 attribute that he possesses that NBA front offices and coaching staffs universally are drawn to, he has a competitive will and edge and toughness and a motor for the game because he loves basketball. That's going to make him special at the next level. I think he's going to add some things to his game offensively. I think his passing is already like absolutely impactful day one. His defense will be impactful day one. He's going to make any NBA team better defensively the day he steps on it because of his versatility, the ground he covers, and how badly he wants to play defense, how much it means to him with those metrics. He's got to tighten up his handle. It's good now for a guy his size, but eventually, if you want to really break through and become, an all-star, then an all-NBA type guy, then a franchise type guy, you got to tighten it up even more. I think he's got some things mechanically with his shot that needs some work. He's got a little bit of a hitch. I think it's more pronounced than when I saw him when he was about 15, 16 years old on the AAU circuit. That right now are going to, I think, limit his ability to get up into the 40s from the NBA three-point line. I think it can come. I think it'll happen for him. But initially, it's going to be his athleticism, speed up the floor, playmaking, and defense. That's what you're going to notice the most. And he's going to sprinkle in good scoring games because he's going to be on the court a lot. And the game's kind of an open game now. There's a lot of freedom of movement. So he's just going to, by his activity, he'll have good scoring games. And there'll be nights even he makes, 3-4 threes. He's going to have some of those games. But I don't think it's his scoring that's going to stand out right away in how he's helping the Mavericks. And that's a good thing because that means I think he gets on the court
Kyrie,
faster.
Clay,
because sometimes
Cooper,
if you're a scorer and they're counting you to do it, it might take 2-3 years before you're comfortable at that level. Defense, playmaking, and just build, that's immediate needs for any team. And so Cooper Flagg from day one makes them better. And I don't think there's any question in my mind that that's going to happen.
Especially at his position, which is obviously a premium in the NBA, the big wing, the athletic player.
That squad
I do think we've
defensively
seen
is
probably
like
enough
fucking
growth at the very
insane.
least throughout his season at Duke.
Just the 3 defenders alone, bro.
Like
Like, that's crazy.
Start to add some of that stuff over time. So obviously,
Then they're gonna bring Max Christie off the bench.
That's not going to change, but I also just think like
What the fuck
as the
am I
Mavericks
looking at?
enter this transition phase post Luka, you've still got some of these older players, Anthony Davis, you've still got Daniel Gafford you just brought back, Derek Lively, like you're this big physical. Dominating defensive team, and I think that will set a culture for them, led by Cooper Flagg. That can just take them in the future in a really positive way. We're going to skip ahead to number 3 on our mock draft, where Derek Bodner and I, who worked on this from PHLY, selected BJ Edgecombe. This is a dynamic, defensive-oriented two-guard who has shown flashes of really being able to create offense with the Bahamas. Shot it okay this season, started off a little bit slow at Baylor and heated up as the season went on, but somebody who I think is going to be one of the better defensive players in this draft. Measured a little bit better than people thought. There was some questioning about was he going to be 6'2", 6'3", but he measured a true 6'4", and he's going to be, I think, a really awesome player, one of the better two-way players in this draft. But I think the big question is, like, is it him or is it Ace Bailey, who obviously is a 6'7", 6'8", dynamic shot maker, sort of in the mold of, some people were talking about Tracy McGrady. I think that was a little generous. I think maybe more of like a Michael Porter Jr. type of player. But Tim, I know those are a couple of the guys that you have spent more time watching. So I'm curious what you think about each of them, and maybe if you were the Sixers, who would you prefer?
Yeah, I think they're interesting prospects. I think there's something about Edgecombe that makes me think that he's going to add the polish to his game that he needs, because he's already got this burst and athletic ability that's rare for this draft class. He's right at the top of the list. There are comparisons out there with Russell Westbrook. I see why people say that because of his just explosive ability to take it through contact and get to the rim. That's how he wants to beat you. But he's also, I think, a capable shooter, certainly a better shooter than Westbrook was early in his career. So Edgecombe is a guy I think that I'd be really intrigued by, because athletically and from a strength standpoint and just a physical profile to play in the league, he's got that right now. So is he willing to polish up his handle? Can he become a more consistent deep shooter? Can he add a little bit off the dribble with that athletic ability? I've been giving the benefit of the doubt. So that's why I would lean there if I were Philly. The Ace Bailey thing is interesting because he's obviously a scorer. He's long. He's lean. He's not a guy that's got a great handle. He's not going to do a whole lot creating his own offense. It's pretty predictable what he's going to do to get into a shot. It's going to be a couple dribbles one direction or the other, mainly to his right hand. He's going to shoot that pull-up. He's tall. He gets it off over college players. It's a little bit harder at the NBA level. But the physical profile of what it takes to play in the league, I look at him and I go, yeah, it might happen. But right now, guys are going to be able to get up into his body, and it's going to be hard for him early. I think Edgecombe is a guy, if you dropped him on the floor tomorrow in an NBA game, he's going to blend in and fit in. I think Ace Bailey, once the other team saw that this guy can shoot a little bit, makes a couple of shots, and you want to go and you want to get chest to chest with him, at the NBA level, it's going to be a lot harder for him. Edgecombe is going to be able to answer that challenge because of just the traits that he brings to the table physically. So, and then this whole thing about not working out, I'm not going to lie, I don't love it. I don't love it. It's like, to me, whatever the reasoning is, it's like there are already conditions under which you're operating, and you haven't got to the league yet. That, to me, is not a super bright, glaring red flag, but a little bit, man. If I wanted a guy to work out, and he didn't want to come work out for us, and I was thinking about drafting him, and it's close. Like, now, if you believe in your heart, man, this dude is going to turn into the next Kevin Durant. I believe it in my heart. I don't care that he didn't work out. He's got his own reasoning. I'm drafting him anyway. But if you think they're close, if one guy was willing to come work out for you and put it all on display and have dinner with you and let you get to meet him and do the interview and not worry about any of that and let the chips fall where they may, I kind of like that approach and that attitude better in a prospect. We'll see to what extent it affects Ace Bailey. It looks like, a lot of the draft boards I've seen, if he doesn't go 3, he might slip to 5, Ace Bailey. Whereas I think Edgecombe is more likely to go 3-4. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. And I don't know if Philly's made up their mind yet entirely.
Yeah, I'm not someone who's like necessarily after like the high floor prospect, certainly not in the top 5, but I do feel like BJ just has a certain floor where it's like, he's going to be a very productive player on the offensive end and give you stuff on the defensive end and give you some creation on the offensive end. And that's just frankly a more valuable player than somebody who is, a tough shot maker from the 3. And so for me, it's like, if you're a team, you want a player that you're investing in at this point in the draft, which is a very valuable asset, to want to do anything that it takes to contribute to the team, to fit in, to play a role, and to contribute to winning. And to me, the signal is like, I'm not really willing to do that. I'm just willing to do what it takes for me to put myself in the best situation. And he's got the right to do that. He's a very talented player, and I think all players should prioritize themselves. But at a certain point, like, you do have to prove it, and I wonder how this will affect him. We're running out of time here, so I want to just get to a couple more here quickly. The Suns pick at number 10, we went with Colin Murray-Boyles. This is somebody who is a tremendous defensive player, versatile, kind of the closest. There's been a lot of players in the last 10, 15 years who people want to be the next Draymond Green. I think Colin Murray-Boyles is the closest thing defensively. The length, the ability to quarterback a defense, switchable, protects the rim, just a very high IQ, high level, high feel defensive player. He's very interesting offensive fit, though. Does not have a jump shot, incredibly left-hand dominant, but has shown some really good passing flashes. You can imagine him playing as sort of like a elbow hub, running DHOs, just facilitating the offense, and does have a nice bully ball game. It kind of reminds me of Julius Randle. So to me, that's the kind of player that this Suns team, as they remake, is really going to want. You have Dylan Brooks now, who can start to set that culture, but I think Colin Murray-Boyles would do a really good job there. Just quickly, Tim, do you think that's the kind of player that would fit in with what they kind of need to start building?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what you described, I think that's, to me, that would be the remake of this team. You've got offensive talent at the top. You need to remake the way you approach winning every night. That's what they need to change. And that's what, they had a new coaching staff. They've got Brian Gregory in there now making front office decisions, who's really mostly his background's college basketball coaching, which so was an interesting hire.